Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendon Traxler.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Colonize the Ocean, the podcast. My name is Adam Jewell. I am the social media manager for Atlantis Sea Colony and the one host for the Colonize the Ocean podcast. And with me is the founder of Atlantis Sea Colony and the other host of Colonize the Ocean podcast, Brendon. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. That was an awful lot of words you just said there.
Well, I try to not make it copy and paste when I jump in and do this, so I try to arrange things a little bit every time I do the introduction. So, me and you have been talking. We're kind of doing a little bit of experimenting with the podcast now. We want to try to, talk about some current news and current topics that involve, marine technology and oceanic news, stuff like that, and things that can relate back to colonizing the ocean. And really, a lot of the different topics that, you can find in the news today that relate to the ocean, that relate to marine technology, that, just cover those topics, we can find a lot of those things that are being discussed by other, news sites that we can utilize to our advantage for colonizing the ocean. So, we both picked out a couple news articles that we want to go through. I know you said you found one that involves some clean energy resources that's being used. What have you figured out?
Yeah, and I just want to say, you're talking about how we're kind of evolving the podcast a little bit, and I think the whole, if you're just now coming in the podcast, this is the first one you listen to, awesome. From here out, it's going to be a little bit different experience. But if you've been with us from the beginning, we kind of laid a foundation early on what different the basis underwater habitats, energy, stuff, submersibles. We've had some cool interviews, and that's not going to change per se. But we've already laid that foundation, and we just wanted to bring some more value and some hard hitting news to you guys.
We want to be your source of ocean colonization news.
Your one-stop shop for all your ocean news now. But basically what you said. But I did. I found an article. Clean energy is all the rave. Everybody's talking solar, wind, hydro. It's the sun burns nonstop. It's always there. But so does the waves and the tides, and they run around the clock. Unlike the sun, which you get a good, that depends on what part of the world you're in and what season it is. It doesn't run 24/7. So then you got to run off battery backup during those off hours or jump back on the grid. But with the ocean, your tides are clockwork and you're constantly moving. And so when we start looking at underwater or even ocean-based habits above or beyond under the water, power is important, and we got to look at that. So this article I found was titled, "A buoy-like device designed to produce electricity from the ocean is being developed in Scotland." Basically what it was, after reading through the article, which will be in the show notes, so you can read it up for yourself, is a submerged wave buoy that reacts to changes in subsea water pressure caused by passing waves. The organization that's doing this, they've got a $1.29 million budget, or they were given that much money to fund this project, and they're wanting to have 15 of these things in by the year 2023. Along with all that, Scotland has really been moving in the hydro area, and as of the end of January 2020, they announced that their tidal stream power project off the north coast of Scotland had already generated 13.8 gigawatt hours of electricity. And to give that a little bit of perspective, that means the average house, it could power about almost 4,000 of those just off this project they're working on. So, that's 4,000. It's not a ton, but for just starting off and trying this new technology, it's a positive start. The only down thing that you see with hydro is you can't be too far inland. So if you're in the middle of the United States, or Adam, if you're in South Dakota, you're probably not going to benefit too much from hydroelectricity. But if you're like most residents and you're closer to the coast, you're definitely going to see some benefits from that, or you could definitely see some benefits from that, I guess, if that gets implemented and going forward.
One thing that I've always liked about seeing this kind of stuff, and we've talked about it in our previous podcast, is that, and we're going to, I'm sure, jump into this after I get through this, is that once you're in the experimentation stage, which is kind of like what a lot of these companies are going through with this kind of technology, is they're putting it out there. They want to see how well it works. And, it's very few right now. There's not a lot of these out there. But as what can come from this is after they develop the success of this, these things are going to be like manufactured. These things are going to be built cheaper, built faster. They're going to be accessible for, the world, to be able to do this, and we have more access to clean energy. And I mean, that you look at how, solar kind of got its kick. I mean, it was experimental in the very beginning. Now, I mean, you can go to a hardware store, really, or like some of these big chain hardware stores. You can buy solar panels to, power big or small things on your own at a really affordable rate. So the cool thing is, like I just said, is you're watching this happen. And yeah, it's an expensive endeavor right now for a country to take on or a government to take on. But as they see the benefits, as they see more people showing interest, the manufacturability is going to be there. You're going to be able to see the benefits, the costs of it go down to where it's accessible for everyone. And for people like you and I who are trying to build an underwater habitat, this is a really cool option, to see that if this might be a way you could power an underwater habitat or an underwater colony.
Right. I mean, it's not going to be, especially when we're talking global here, it's not going to be one technology that does, it's not all or nothing type of thing.
Right.
There will be wind, there will be solar, there will be hydro, there'll be geothermal. There's going to be tons of different stuff just depending on where you're at and to keep the costs down and stuff like that. And you're talking about solar, you look at, it's got all the buzzwords right now. It's popular. It's hot. It's what everybody's looking for. And because of that, the technology is really progressing and they're getting more advanced. I mean, you look at what Tesla is doing with their solar panels on their roofs of the houses they're coming out with. You can't tell the
shingles.
Yeah, you can't tell the difference from a regular house, and you get to power your house. So not only is it you getting the benefit from it, but aesthetically it's pleasing too. Which in the past you had these big giant panels in your house, and people didn't want them because they looked ugly. But now you don't have to deal with it. And that's all a technology thing because once again it got pushed forward. And same thing with anything else. Look at the way wind turbines have changed over the years, and the same thing will come from hydro as well. If it's a technology that shows promise, which it's hard for me to think it doesn't, just because you do have a reoccurring tide, or you put it in a Gulf Stream, or you put it somewhere else, and you can harness that never-ending power that's going there. Anybody that's ever gone in the ocean knows the power of the waves, and there's an awful lot of power there. And if we just harness that, that's definitely a deal breaker. I mean, it's a game changer.
Yeah, and kind of like I said before, and what you just said, tying into it, is that a lot of this technology started out big and bulky. Like, that's just the way any type of engineering project goes. Like, it's always going to be big in the beginning because you got to figure out how to make it work. And then just as the technology develops, as there's more people on this kind of thing, technology makes machines smaller while being able to perform the same capabilities. We mentioned how I believe it's Solar City, Elon Musk's other company, making the shingles that you can put on your roof that are solar panels. It started these big solar farms, which still exist, but now you can just put shingles on your house and get a lot of the same effects. I foresee the same thing happening with some of this hydro technology we're talking about, where when you see some of the stuff out there, it might be bigger platforms or whatever these structures that they're going to use as, but as time progresses, they're going to have like a cleaner look. They're going to be smaller. They're going to be not as invasive on the waters, and but still be able to perform what you want them to perform.
Yeah, and just a side note, a correction here. Solar City was purchased by Tesla and is now branded Tesla, so it no longer exists as Solar City.
Oh, well, I'm glad you called me out on that because I did not know that. So,
There you
hey,
go.
I learned a couple things today.
Hey, it's always a good day. You should learn something new every day.
Yeah, well, and hopefully that's what people are going to get with this podcast. A little bit of self promotion there while we're clearing up my mistakes.
Uh-huh.
Did you want to cover anything else with that, or do you want me to dive into mine?
I mean, I think that when we're talking about energy, it's a subject that we could definitely dive deeper into. And I think we'll come back to it as we continue on, because it is always a changing and evolving technology.
We're going to see a lot of it.
We are. And once again, as we talked with Joseph on the last podcast that we did, once energy is it, you have to harness that, and you have to figure out how you're going to get the energy to your underwater habitat, to your floating house, to your whatever. We are dependent upon energy, a la electricity anymore, to survive. And especially when you're underwater, it's life and death, literally. So anything we can do or talk about, energy and clean energy, we will.
So I want to but I want to go into this article that I found. It's kind of traveled the web this past week, and this particular one I found was on Forbes by, the writer was Andre White. So this is kind of a story about this gal named Nelly Asigi Katagi. Now, I don't want to keep butchering that name because I just have a feeling that I did not pronounce it right. So I'm just going to call her Nelly. So she grew up in Western Kenya, which is 14 hours away from the Indian Ocean. Now, she got her aquatic science undergrad from Egerton University. And even while she was pursuing this degree, she still had not ever seen the ocean. So she grew up in a place where she was nowhere near the ocean. She knew she wanted to study aquatic sciences. And even while pursuing that, still hadn't even got a chance to experience what it is to be by the ocean, but still got this degree. Now, she's recently become a very important figure in marine biology. She's studying billfish like marlins and swordfish. Despite their popularity for fishing, there's still a lot of stuff that people don't know about these fish. So she's been doing a lot of research, working with different organizations, just kind of including trying to figure out she's trying to figure out their range, their habitats, their migration patterns, and with a lot of things that are going on in the world, the effects that global warming has on them. So she's done a lot of this different stuff, and she's continuing to do so, and kind of trying to be an activist on making sure people aren't overfishing. Not necessarily not fishing at all, but just making sure we don't overfish certain types of fish types and populations. And, and I told you that I wanted to kind of bring up this article. I told you I was going to be able to relate it back to ocean colonization, which seems kind of weird. But the thing that I liked about this article was it's about someone who had an interest in the ocean that lived 14 hours away from the ocean. So that resonates with me because when I came onto this project with you, I've been to the ocean a couple times in my life, but I live in the Midwest. I live in South Dakota. So it's, it's not a quick drive for me. Literally, I think I would have to drive probably 14, 15, probably 20 hours to the closest direction of getting to an ocean. So, but here I am trying to help figure out everything with this project that we're working on, and just anything with what we're doing, is learning about the ocean, whether it's underwater technology, parts of what we're trying to learn about is, ocean conservation and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool that someone that was so far away had such a passion for something she hadn't even got to experience until she was already really in it. So, it's cool that hopefully we can have that kind of same effect for people that even if you don't live in a coastal region where you're by the ocean and maybe something similar to like scuba diving is a hobby of yours. Like you said, a lot of people in Midwest, it's not going to be their first activity, but maybe it's more popular on the coastal towns. Well, I'm hoping that, just interest in marine technology and ocean colonization has that same effect.
And I think you're right. From a standpoint where, I grew up until I was 12 in Illinois. That was my home. And that's really, even back then, I had a passion for wanting to scuba dive, wanting to be near the ocean. And I never saw the ocean until I was 13, 14, I think, something like that. And around the same time is when I really started, looking at Atlantic Sea Colony, and that started coming in my mind. So, I didn't get certified to dive until I was in my 20s. So all these things, once again, it does. I think that part of it is it's just the dreamer mentality and having the vision and having a passion and being laser focused on that passion, like this person in your article was. So yeah, I kudos to them and I agree.
Yeah, it's one of the things we talk a lot about, business talk, is we have such a specific demographic that we try to reach out to. But with that, we also want to try to gain the interest of people that maybe have never thought of this kind of thing. Ocean colonization, that's a very specific type of endeavor that we are chasing, and we want other people to kind of get behind it too. So yeah, like I said, this was kind of, quite a bit different. I mean, the article wise, she went on to pursue marine biology, which is awesome. I think that's an awesome field to get into. And, I love watching marine life, and, I'm just an animal person in general. Granted, like I said, around here, you're not going to get to see cool tropical fish or nothing like that. But so it's really cool for me to see that. And yeah, just to reiterate, and kind of like what you said, is just, even if you're not even pursuing oceanic stuff, like, don't let, here's an inspirational thing. It's just like, just because, it's not in your region or something that's realistic where you're at, that doesn't mean you can't pursue some sort of dream.
Yeah, and especially now in today's age with the internet and stuff like that, everything is within your fingertips reach. So yeah, it's inspirational thoughts from Adam today.
No, yeah, it's like I said, it was really cool to see, and we'll obviously tie that link to the show notes and let people check out what she is doing and all of her work. Now, so I think that's kind of how we're gonna do the shows, and like you said, we're gonna still do interviews. That's still something we're gonna pursue. Obviously, we want to do more news and hit on more topics that as they come out, and we just kind of want to try to stay current. And we're kind of like in an experimental phase right now. So one thing that we wanted to throw in with our sign out is we do have a Patreon. So you can find us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Atlantic Sea Colony. And with that, we, any small donation that you guys can make to us helps us just continue to develop the business and grow the business. And really, one of the big things we want to try to do is start saving up to getting the physical aspects of this project underway as well. So anything you guys can do to help us out would be awesome. Also, you guys can find us on all of our social medias. You can find us at Facebook, Atlantic Sea Colony, Instagram, Atlantic Sea Colony, Twitter, Atlantic Sea Colony, LinkedIn, Atlantic Sea Colony. Brendon, is there anything else you want to throw in?
I think we're on YouTube, TikTok. If it's a social media, we're probably on it in some way or another.
We actually have a Reddit account, too, that I'm trying to get built up, too. So you can find us at Atlantic Sea Colony on Reddit as well, AtlanticSeaColony.com and ColonizeTheOcean.com.
And also, we're now on, there's a platform, it's similar to YouTube, but it's blockchain related called, I don't know if it's pronounced library or not, but it's lbry.tv. And we're putting video content up there as well. So you might want to check that out. It's a newer platform. It's interesting. We're playing around with it too.
Once again, guys, thanks for tuning in to Colonize the Ocean podcast. Brendon, you got anything else?
No, sir. Thank you, everybody.